I'm Dave Betzler. I'm representing the Northern El Paso County Monument Area, and I'm the chair. Pete?
B. Babbitt, Northern El Paso County.
Dixie Herring, the Independence Center.
Jen Nemo, Colorado Community Health Alliance.
Joyce Whittle, Park County. Yeah.
Chris Sheehan, Park County. Chris Sheehan, Larson, Park County. Oh, please forgive me, honey.
Marilyn Bradish, Colorado Springs.
Dixie Wodell, Southern El Paso County.
Wendy Farr, Colorado Springs.
Jody Barker, Area Agency on Aging Director.
And let's start over here.
Dave Summers and Vita.
Hi, Dave.
Amy Cutler, Community Dental Health.
Gary Olson, Brothers Redevelopment. Melissa.
Melissa Marks, Area Agency on Aging, trying to keep notes on.
Allison Jokowski, Sunshine Home Share, Colorado.
Okay.
And Michaela Capel, Sunshine Home Share, Colorado.
Okay. And if everybody looks over here to the front of the room, you can see the potluck and the desserts that are waiting for us. So that's one of the things that's not on the agenda really, but it really should be. One thing I'll throw out here right at the outset is that we do have a sheet here for update as we end the year. The staff has asked that everybody would look at their phone numbers, their email addresses, and mailing addresses if necessary, and anything else, make any changes. Those that are not on here, please follow the format and just add your appropriate contact information on it. That will help the staff a lot. So we have next on are the consent items, the agenda, and the minutes. We have the agenda before us. Are there changes that we need to make to the agenda? Or do we have any changes to the minutes of the last meeting? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve both by consent. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Perfect. So we passed both the agenda and the minutes. Now we're on to public comments. So are there things that are not on the agenda that we need to hear from?
I just want to make a quick mention.
Microphone.
Forget. This weekend, so Friday night and Saturday night, or actually days, is the Christmas Crush display at the Latter-day Saint building on Lexington Drive. It's free to the public, about 750 nativity scenes displayed.
Community events should be done.
Free event, so whether it's your family or whether it's a group of seniors or whoever you might want to bring, it's a wonderful event. So Friday from like 2 o'clock until 8 p.m., and then Saturday 1 o'clock until about 8 p.m. So if you're looking for something to do,
Come.
Okay, Chris, you have a...
Basically, just some announcements from our way off in Park County place. We're doing very, very well. We have got a grant from the census. We got a grant for $19,000 for our outreach and education. We did get approved on that. We've already started our training. We had our senior expo, and I am proud to say that we had 150 seniors show up for that, and we had 27 providers. So that went well, and then we also did a transportation symposium in conjunction with Mountain Resource Center, and we had quite a crowd show up. We had RTD, we had some commissioners, we had lots of movers and shakers. So that's moving forward too. So I just wanted to say, yay, Park County.
Yes.
Right, the other thing you should mention would be the wildfire committee meetings you had also.
This is big.
That was big.
Fire Adapted Bailey has been a program for a while in our area. We had one man that just took a passion concern with fire mitigation in a rural area, and he jumped into it, ended up getting a $50,000 grant, and because of our work with seniors directly, he approached our board, and we helped establish a training protocol for seniors for evacuation. We put together the entire program, and we did a presentation on it. We did a workshop, and the active presentation went really well. We had a lot of people show up, some senators, and I think I announced this to you last time. Senator Heisey and Senator Carver are interested in trying to take some dollars from the mitigation for the state and move it specifically into a rural designation. And so he was also there. So that's really good news. And another good thing that's happened is the Forestry Service actually has a consultant that they've hired to take all these numbers and ideas and what's happened with the tree growth in our state, and they've now approached us to take this program and spread it around. And it's very unique. We're teaching seniors and telling seniors what they need specifically that are special to their needs. We're highlighting all the evac routes, actually set up some evac plans, telling them what to pack. It's very specific, it's very detailed, and the good news is it's set up to take regionally, nationally, so it looks like that path is going to happen. So we're really proud of that.
Right, and I'd just like to publicly thank you again for your work in setting that thing up. I attended that meeting, and it was I've been involved with FireWise and wildfire prevention for quite some time, and it was just an eye-opening meeting, well organized, great discussion, great materials. And it really I think it captured a lot of the seniors. There must have been probably 50 or 60 people crammed into the room, and an awful lot of one-on-one discussions, a lot of senior participation. And as we mentioned previously at meetings like this, it really is critical that everybody understand that the wildfire threat is something that is very real, and that especially as we get older, it really is something that has to become much more of a priority in our lives. You just can't sit back and say, well, okay, that's Fire in Paradise, I don't really care about that one, or that one in Waldo Canyon, that was a long time ago. No, this is something that is really critical. If you haven't really thought through, as Chris has talked about, the evacuation routes, evacuation planning, notification of friends and relatives, how you're going to reconnect, all of those types of things, it's a huge, huge, complicated issue that really requires our participation and continued support for education and awareness. Enough said on that. Any other public comments? Yes,
What was
Melissa.
the name of the Fire Adapted Bailey?
FAC, Fire Adapted Communities.
Adapted with an ED. Fire.
Yeah, fact.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other thoughts, comments? Anybody else? Just like to welcome Cynthia, too. You just kind of walked in with your Christmas sweater. How special. Thank you. Okay, so we're on to information providers. We have a number of them, A through E this morning, or A through A and B. First provider presentation is Brothers Redevelopment. So you're on, young man. All right.
Well,
And it has very good.
okay, good. All right, I'm Gary Olson. I'm with Brothers Redevelopment. We are a Denver-based company. We've been in Denver for about 48 years. We've been here in Colorado Springs for approximately 2.5 years. You may have heard that this past year we suffered a fire in our office, and we totally lost everything. And within, I would say, 2 days, we were back up and running. And so what happened basically was we lost all of our equipment, we lost our phones, we lost everything, and we were able to get some laptops, transfer our phones to cell phones. Our landlord was able to provide for us an alternate location. And within 2 days, we were back up and running, continuing to do all the work that we've done. Now we're back at our home, and I would like to invite anybody that would like to come and see our office space. We are located at 2762 Janitel Road in the strip mall. If you know where the popcorn shop is in the strip mall, or where the Goodwill store is, we're in that strip mall just to the east of that. So it's a great location, and we'd like to invite anybody that would like to come and see what it is we actually have. Our program has been focusing on the needs of the seniors for at least the last 2.5 years, where we have revamped all of our departments, and we have decided that everything that we're going to do is going to have the focus of aging in place. And the purpose of that is, obviously, as you can see here, between 2010 and 2030, this is the baby boomers. This is my generation. And so we're going to see a huge growth and upturn in our population. One of the things when I was hired at Brothers Redevelopment that they asked me to do was to work on a project to estimate the growth of the senior population in the Denver metro area. And we had determined back in 2017 that we were probably around 200,000 seniors in the Denver metro area. In about the next 25 years, we are looking at that to triple to 600,000 seniors. And when you start looking at those kind of numbers, then because we're involved in the housing of seniors in our own properties, and we also have an involvement with managing properties, we start looking at the idea of how much development needs to go on in subsidized housing or any other kind of program to be able to accommodate that kind of growth. And we determined that it's going to take somewhere around the construction or availability of 500 apartments per month to become available in the next 25 to 30 years to accommodate that growth. That's huge. That's huge. So our board and our director has decided that we are going to make every effort possible to help seniors stay in their home, find affordable housing, whatever it is we have to do to keep them living independently or potentially living in a situation where they can sustain themselves somehow.
So Gary, quick question then. So for the Colorado Springs and for the three-county area here, is that tripling that you're saying expected over the next 25 years in Denver? Is that something that is the same would apply roughly to this area, to all areas in the United States?
You know, I haven't had that kind of experience, but what I would say is in the next 20 years, the population aging 50 up will increase from 109 million to 132 million. The potential is the growth that we are seeing in the population and the baby boomer. You remember they used to always talk about the bubble? Well, guess what? The bubble's here. We've been talking about it. We've been talking about it for years, and they never really did an awful lot about the bubble. And now we're talking about it, and we're in it. So there's just a lot of things that are going on. And I would say, you know, across the board, everything that I've read is indicating just about the same thing. So we are seeing that kind of tripling going on. So in the next 25, 30 years, we can expect a lot more need. We can expect a lot more development. But we also have to be able to expect a lot more support from the government and other agencies that are involved with seniors. Okay? And this kind of starts taking us into what we actually do. We do what is called Aging in Place Service Coordination. That's my department. And basically, I have service coordinators that work for me that help people figure out benefits and resource navigation. As you guys know, the government is a confusing mess sometimes, particularly when you're a senior and you just don't know how to get what you need to get. And so we help people navigate the system. We'll even go to the point of helping them fill out applications and working through some of those things to make sure that they get the benefit that they need. That's where application assistance comes in. We also do senior housing referrals and other agency referrals. So we work with agencies all over the Denver metro area, all over the Colorado Springs, El Paso County area, any agency that we can get, we put into our database so that when people call us from a certain area, we know the agencies in those areas that we can refer people to.
Gary, I understand that everything is resource constrained, but I mean, is the expectation or potential growth for the services, or at least some sort of presence, to also include Teller and Park County?
Yes. That is our hope, and I need to speak to people in Teller and Park County because we need to work
They're
in
here.
that area. Good. We need to develop that outreach a lot more. We're finding statistically that at least 48% of the seniors that we encounter don't know anything about the benefits or the services that are available to them. And that's sad because they've spent their whole their whole lifetime working and putting money into these programs and not being able to understand how to get those benefits from those programs for themselves.
Dixie, you got a question?
I had a comment. I have worked with the Fountain Valley area for quite a few years, and because there is such a high volume of retired veterans in the Fountain Valley area, that the numbers are more than three times. It's higher in the veterans area, in the Colorado Springs area, because of the retired veterans that we're getting here, and the widows of such. It's high.
Right. I agree. So I have a full-time staff down here. By the way, I work most of my time in Denver, so I'm driving to Denver every day because I live in Glen Eagle. I drive to Denver every day, and 4 days a week, typically I'm in Denver, and on special occasions such as this, I get to spend an extra day down in the Springs area, which, by the way, if you can get me busier, I would love it. So, I love driving the Gap. I've loved road racing and all that other kind of junk and bumper cars and, all those other carnival rides. I love that stuff. But it's when it snows that it's not fun. So,
Just a quick statement. Our commissioners are very, very favorable to additional housing or supportive housing for seniors. It's sort of a pet project that no one talks about. So just informationally,
Perfect.
please, let's make sure and
Perfect.
exchange cards.
And Chris is Park County.
And
Yes.
I'm Park County.
okay, great. All right. So I have a full-time staff. Kathy McMichael is my home modification specialist down here. So she works with individuals to determine eligibility into a home modification program, and she is also my aging in place specialist. Because she came to us from a number of agencies that focus on that aging in place piece, she was a perfect fit for home mod and for working in our benefits and resource navigation area.
I actually worked with Kathy at Pace. So
Yeah. She's good.
You did well.
She's good. You bet.
You did a good
bet.
job.
She is excellent. And one of the things that I tell people all the time is, I can train people to do the job. Can't train passion. And Kathy is passionate. So she would be a very good resource. Then I also have Katrina Brown, who is my housing counselor specialist. She is working on her HUD certification for housing counseling. So she understands all the in and outs of how to do all the various housing counseling pieces. Again, benefits and resource navigation with housing in mind. Affordable housing help, housing counseling. We do a first-time home buyers class. Utility assistance, landlord-tenant disputes, home modification and repair, all kinds of different things that are all focused and housed in our office down here. Okay?
When you say utility assistance, like, that means?
Well, we can do, a lot of people say things about like LEAP applications or other kinds of things, or once in a while there's an agency around that lets us know that they have resources to assist people with utilities. And when we find out about that, then as people are calling in, then we're referring people to those resources, or we're checking with those resources to find out if they still have funds available.
Gary, is that same thing true for the home modifications and repairs then? That you don't actually have handymen that do that service, you just have the information available and you refer people to other providers? Is that what happens?
Yes, but the difference is we have a project manager. And so our manager goes and makes sure that the project is completed according to specs, is completed according to the regulations. You know, every once in a while, we hear these scary stories about people that have things that are going on in their home, and they don't know where they got this guy from, and he's gone, and the project is half done, and whatever. So we make sure that the companies that we work with are insured, have a license, have a good reputation, and they are fully vetted by our company. Because if we're going to put our name with that company, you can bet that project is going to get done, and it's going to get done according to specs. So we follow that through all the way. Now, during the last year, we had 662 people contact us. Of those, 58%, or 383, were over 60, 42%, or the balance, which I'm not going to do the math in my head, 278, I think it is, were under 60. The reason for the call, we had 15% of our calls come in, they were renters, and they wanted to know what was out there and available. We had some homeowners that called in looking for, sometimes it was some kind of housing provision that we might have. Maybe it was a program that we could promote. It may be a modification that they're looking for. Only 2.8% of the calls that came in specifically called for senior services. And there was something that we were able to either refer them to or assist them with. Most of our calls were the home modification and repair department, where it was, can you modify my place so that I can stay in my home and live independently? So 57% were home modification. I think we had one call, maybe two, that were HCEM is reverse mortgage. We help with reverse mortgages. We do not have a reverse mortgage on staff right now, but personally, I don't like reverse mortgages. Now, some people do, I don't. We had a number of people call in that needed some counseling. The potential is people are calling in because they've got a landlord problem, or they're calling in because I don't have heat in my apartment. What city department do I call to get that taken care of? You'd be surprised how many calls at times, particularly wintertime, that people are calling and saying, I need help with this. Or there is potentially another outside referral that we made to other agencies, and then 6.7% were just calls that came in that we didn't have a category for. So, for a variety of, who knows?
Just a comment, I guess, what strikes me is that maybe the name of Brothers Redevelopment, that's why you have such a peak on the modification and repair, vice focusing on seniors.
Right.
So, I don't know how you adjust
Well,
to that, but I mean, that's really, what you're really trying to do is trying to get the name out that you really do focus to a large extent or a major extent on seniors.
The reason why you see the disparity here is because this is the reason for their call, and I don't want to skew the numbers by saying, by increasing this column as well. But anytime we go into somebody's home and we do home modification and repair, we're also looking at their benefits to make sure that everything is where it belongs, that if there is a need, we're referring them to another agency. So I didn't want to mess with my numbers, but when we do this, we're also doing benefits, and we're also checking to make sure that they've got everything. We don't want to just fix their house, we want to help them live independently. And sometimes that's making a referral to help them with their benefits. It might be some other kind of things. There might be other programs out there as well. So this is kind of a misnomer that it's only HMR and that this is only, but this one was only senior services that we actually help somebody with.
So it's chartology is what it is.
Yeah.
So are you sending in a social worker if someone goes in to do a repair and it seems like there are other issues that are identified? Do you have a social worker or care manager on staff who is then sort of the follow-up person that comes in, or how does that work?
What happens is through the application process, Kathy McMichael, who is our home modification specialist, also specializes in some of that aging in place program, that piece as well, the social services piece. She will take note of what is in the home and what the needs could be, and then there are times when she will help them understand what applications need to be completed, or it will be an outside referral. So that's where I say we try not to let it just be fix the house. So we try and do that fully together.
Well, and just as a recommendation, Kathy doesn't have a social work initials behind her name, but she is far more qualified than most social workers I've ever worked with. And there's no question that the slightest bit of a suggestion or a comment about what else might be going on, and she's on top of it. She will take care of it.
Right. And by the way, we do not do case management. We do information and assistance, and so we will give them the information they need. We will assist them to understand what applications they ought to be filling out. We'll even go to the point of assisting them to find somebody or to even help them ourselves fill out those applications. But once we're done with that, they're on their own until they call back. And then also in our Springs office, 69.9% of our callers are female, 30% are male. Ethnic, as you can see, African Americans, and understand this is all self-identifying if they choose not to identify. So this is 100% of those that chose to identify. This is not 100% of 662 callers. But of those that chose to identify, 11% African American, 7.4% Hispanic and Latino, and 69.9% Caucasian. Now, one of the things we do with this information is this tells us where we need to start targeting our efforts. For example, one of the things that we are going to begin doing as the need arises is going to be, we're going to be offering first-time homebuyers class in Spanish. It's a 6-hour program that once they receive the certificate from that class, they can go to their lender and get down payment assistance for the ability to purchase a home. So, and that assistance is very valuable. It can be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. Then we move into our home modification and repair department. We contract with agencies throughout El Paso and Colorado Springs. We modify homes to allow low-income seniors to age in place, focus on accessibility and safety improvements. You know, we don't want to do cosmetic things. We want to do things that allow people to stay in their homes. And so Colorado Springs has given us their home mod budget of $500,000. El Paso County has given us their budget of $200,000. And both of these are renewed. This one in particular is renewed after 10 months. And then the $200,000 will be renewed as it comes necessary. El Paso County was a little slower, but when they saw the work that we were doing in Colorado Springs, they began to loosen up some of the requirements.
Gary, one note on this, you have the constraint there of low-income seniors. if you get calls from somebody else that doesn't fit that category, do they also get your assistance? If somebody, for example, is lived here for many, many years, kids are gone, they're trying to figure out how to make improvements at home, would they be able to call you and to get support?
They would call us and get support, but Colorado Springs and El Paso County tells us who we can serve. But we also have connections with contractors and other agencies around that we can refer individuals to get them assistance one way or another. And once in a while, and don't take this out of the room, once in a while we find agencies that will give us funds that say, if you find people that are in that gap, they don't qualify for some of the public assistance programs, and they don't qualify for the senior programs, but they're in that gap. So, and sometimes that comes, sometimes it doesn't. So you just got to go with it what you get. So in this past year, looking from November until the end of October, we completed 77 projects in Colorado Springs and El Paso County. The value of those projects was $656,000. Average about $8,500. Now, technically, it doesn't fall true to this, because sometimes some people need sewer repair. That's $15,000. Or it could be as much as $20,000. Or somebody needs grab bars installed, or they need a shower put in, a roll-in shower, or something like that. We can do all that, and so this is an estimate based on 77 projects, but it's not true to every project having that valuation. Okay. Then we move into another one, which is a fantastic program. Paint-a-thon is a program where we go and we paint people's houses. So this past year, we completed 13 projects in the Springs, staffed by over 100 volunteers, and the materials donated were around $15,000. Time donated, when you calculate the hours that were spent, around $20,000. And they were sponsored by a variety of organizations. City of Colorado Springs, El Paso County, a few of the banks gave us some money, and so what we do is, during the off season, like right now, our volunteer manager is going through agencies all over the area saying, hey, this is what we did last year, this is what we want to do next year, can you help us? And a lot of these agencies, this is great PR for them. So we really try during the off season to put the bite on banks in particular. They really like this program. So we've got projects planned. Right now we already have 8 projects that we know we're going to do. And as we get a hold of more banks and other various entities that would like to be a part of this, we're trying to get them to do that. And this is our 41st year doing this particular program. The next program we have is Landlord Opening Doors. We recruit landlords in 29 counties throughout the state. It is a statewide program that we're a part of. Basically what we're doing here is we're working with the Colorado Choice Transitions Group, and the intent is that when people are institutionalized for, who knows, maybe they're in a nursing home, or they're in an assisted living, or they're in a rehab situation. And the sad truth is, when they go into these situations and maybe they've been in subsidized housing, they lose their apartment. So in this past year, we've been able to place, in El Paso County alone, we've been able to place 21 people from nursing home, assisted living, rehab centers back into an apartment. Now, this isn't an easy program. This is sometimes a difficult program, because what we have to do is we have to work with people within these various counties and let them know that we are trying to assist people coming back in to living in their populations, and it usually comes with a voucher that might be good for 6 months, it might be good for a year, where we can guarantee that you're going to get at least 70% of your rent. And the potential is that they're going to say, well, you know, having that guarantee for a year, I can do that. So that's where this program comes from. It is sponsored by one of the departments in the state called HICPUF, and they have given us this whole thing, and now we have a representative that literally runs all over the state, securing housing and getting people into appropriate housing.
What did you say the name of that program was?
Landlords Opening Doors. HICPUF. HICPUF. Yeah.
There are agencies out there, such as Independent Center, and there's several other ones that help do more of that case management type service to get the person ready to move out. And I think what he's saying is they assist with help to find the housing then. So it's a lot
Right.
bigger of a program than just finding the housing.
Yeah, we work with a lot of the transitional coordinators that are helping those individuals that are coming out of those institutions going into something else.
Joyce, a microphone?
Do you dovetail at all with Section 8 housing? Does that factor into your services in any way? Especially for seniors coming back into the community?
The difficulty is most counties have a lottery system. And because they have a lottery system, there's no way of going to El Paso County and getting around that lottery, or any of the other counties that we work in. Most of that is done that way. So the only thing we can do is offer to help them get on waiting lists for Section 8 housing.
Right.
But then we offer other management companies that may not be specifically
Specific for that.
Section 8. We offer them to give them that subsidy, 70% of the rent,
Right.
and
Okay.
30% paid by the individual coming back
The
in.
individual.
So in essence, it's kind of like an individualized subsidy, like an individualized Section 8.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
Section 8 would do the very same thing.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And there are several different types of housing vouchers. I don't know if there's 6 or 8 or, I mean, there's quite a few that have all different types of requirements. People tend to think Section 8 is housing, but there's several different ones out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Questions? Nope. All
Any other
right.
questions, comments? Thank you very much. I think it's been
Good.
very
Thank
fun.
you.
Just one comment, too, from as we look at the new year, the SRS may want to look at those Section 8, or those programs, different types of vouchers, just as an information. Maybe it's a piece of paper, it's an information piece that now is shared with all of us, so we all have a little bit more awareness of what's really available. I'm sorry?
We have some of those definitions in the blue book.
Oh, great point. So that's a good thing. Okay, so now we're next on the agenda here, Sunshine Home Share, and we have
Yes.
two representatives, I think, today, right?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
My name is Michaela Capel, and I am the social worker at Sunshine Home Share. And that is Allison over there, and she is the executive director, and she founded the program. So we are both here. She can also field some of your more higher-level questions, but I do a lot of the on-the-ground work at Sunshine. So as you all know, I hope we are introducing a program to Colorado Springs, and we are just kind of kicking that off. We're actually doing a couple of certain interviews today with people to see who's the right fit to help run this program. But today I'm just going to do an overview of what Sunshine Home Share does and how this program is going to be replicated in the Springs. So Allison started this program. I'm going to speak for her a little bit about 4.5 years ago. She was working in a NORC program, which is a naturally occurring retirement community in Wheat Ridge in Denver. And she saw two needs. So she saw this aging in place challenge that people were having a really hard time trying to age in place.
the cost of in-home services, right? To have somebody do your laundry, to walk your dog, to mow your lawn is at average $28 an hour. That is a lot of money to have somebody do your laundry or to make you a meal. She also saw a challenge of the social isolation. Kids are living farther away. Families don't live next door or down the street anymore. It's pretty rare. So people are alone and they're isolated. She also saw the challenge of the caregiver burden. So say that you are a daughter and you do live down the street from your parent. You are worried about them living alone. I have to check in on my mom all the time. I'm really worried that she could have a fall. I feel like I have to be there all the time. So she kept hearing these stories. The other side of it is the housing challenge that we are facing. So the cost of housing, I think the average one bedroom in the Springs is about $1,100 now, and in Denver, I think it's about $1,400 now. So the cost, right, for anybody anymore, the span of affordable housing is huge, right? It's young working professionals, it's people who are on a fixed income, it's a whole range in between. She also saw the future economic stability challenge of if you're spending, $1,100 on rent and you get $1,500 from your Social Security, that is a lot of money just on cost of living expenses. So how is anybody ever going to save for retirement, or how is anybody ever going to buy a house, right, if they're paying this high of rent? And that goes for the full spectrum of people needing affordable housing. The other challenge with housing that she saw is the community connectedness and purpose that comes with sharing. I am a young working professional. I don't know my neighbors very well. How many people actually will go and shovel their neighbor's walk or go check in on their neighbors? Yes, it happens, but you guys are all fantastic people, so this is different. Most people don't even know their neighbors anymore, right? Most people don't. So that purpose was kind of lost in housing because you rent your one-bedroom apartment, you go to work, or you do your life, and you don't really know who's around you. So we have kind of lost this sense of purpose in our living situations, which is where we spend a lot of our time. So she saw these two challenges, and her solution, she did a lot of research, was home sharing. So what we do at Sunshine Home Share is we have home providers that call us. They are all above the age of 55. The oldest person in our program is turning 100 this month. They come to us saying things like, I want to stay in my home, I want to stay in my apartment, I want to stay where I've been for a long time, but it's becoming harder because I can't mow my lawn, or because I lost my spouse a couple years ago and this big old house is kind of lonely now. Or I could really just use an extra $500 in rent. I'm on a fixed income. I'd love to travel. I'd love to go see my kids. So having some extra money in my pocket would be great. I can hire somebody to do the lawn. I can do it myself. I just need some extra money. Or it can be a mixture of all those things. So what we do at Sunshine Home Share is we match them with a home seeker that is looking for an affordable housing option. So this person comes to us saying, I can pay $600 a month. I love to mow the lawn. I haven't had my own yard since I was a kid. I'd love to help out with that kind of stuff. Or I also eat dinner alone. Sharing that meal with somebody would be really purposeful for me as well. So what we do at Sunshine Home Share is we try to create a mutually beneficial relationship where the home provider gets to age in place and stay where they want to stay, and the home seeker gets an affordable housing option. It's a pretty simple idea in theory. People have been doing this for years. This is not like a new concept, but we are trying to make it into a program that is safe and sustainable, and I will go into more details about that as well. Oh, and a photo, so that's one of our matches. Jordan is 28, and Joyce is 75 now, and her dog actually passed away. This photo was taken last year. But Jordan just got engaged, and we are having a meeting in a couple of weeks where I'm going to go out to the house and talk about, so let's talk about that she's moving in, your fiancé is moving in, and Joyce is so excited for them to move into her basement, right? But we're changing the arrangement, and we are there to support them in this change of relationship. So just a small success story. So the home sharing model is very important and very intense and something that we do not compromise on. And that's because of the safety of the program and the goodness of fit. So I'll kind of touch on the main points. So we do an application process where somebody would send an application, and both the home seeker or a home provider would send an application back to us. So what we do is a social service intake. So say that this person seems like an appropriate referral. We go out to the house for our home providers, which is a really fun part of my job. I've seen a lot of different homes. And we just do an assessment. We talk about what they need, their hobbies and interests, their political views, their families, their pets. We really dive into who is this person to do that matching process. And we also do the same thing with the home seekers on the opposite side. So they come into our office. We sit down with them. We talk about mental health as well. We talk about any health concerns that you might have, because we say, let's get it all out on the table. We have a home provider who had bone cancer. He came to us saying, I don't know how long I will live, but I want a home share. So he did the full disclosure to a home seeker. They ended up being matched. He is getting chemotherapy and is doing really well. But it's something that we want to just put out on the table. If you are feeling depressed because your spouse passed away, we don't want to discriminate against you for feeling like that, but we want you to share that with the home seeker, because you should both know what you're getting yourselves into. So we do that process, and from that social service intake, we kind of know that person really well, so that's where the fun part of the matching comes in, or the difficult part, kind of depending on your lens. So if we have a right fit, we call the home provider and the seeker, and we say, oh my gosh, I met Nancy, she's fantastic, she's 54, she's an empty nester, she's looking to home share because she wants to buy a house in a few years, but she can't quite afford it right now, so she's looking for like a 3 to 4 year thing in between maybe, but who knows, maybe it'll last forever. So the home provider can say, yes, I'd love to meet her, or no, I hate her cat, I don't like cats, I'm allergic to cats, I cannot have a cat in the house. Kind of depends. But if they both want to meet, I set up a match meeting, which is where a staff member goes out to the house and meets them both there. We are just there to talk home sharing. Tell me about your daily schedule. Tell me about your family. What do you like to do on your free time, right? And it's a really basic kind of interview, but we are there to make sure it feels safe and comfortable. After that, we also run a background check on all of our participants. That includes home providers and home seekers, and that's just that safety piece that we really don't compromise on. We also do 3 reference checks as well, just to make sure that that person is vetted, right? Past roommates, current employer. Some of our younger people always put their mother on. It's always interesting to talk to somebody's mother. Oh, she's fantastic. Well, it's your mother. Of course she's saying that. But we do allow 1 family reference, so that's usually on there. And then, so say that that's going well, they've met the first time, things are going well, we say meet at least 1 or 2 more times on your own. Or bring your kids in, right? If your kid lives down the street, have them come meet this person, have your neighbor meet this person, take them to your church group, have the more people involved, the more eyes we have on the match, because we do all the vetting that we can, but if somebody has a bad feeling about somebody, then they just have a bad feeling about them, and maybe that they are not the right fit for you. So after they've met a few more times, they call us and they say, we are ready to start the 2-week trial match. So this is where I come out to the house and we talk about what a match will look like. So they actually move in together for 2 weeks. The home seeker just brings a suitcase or their cat or both, and they just coexist for 2 weeks on a 2-week basis. So the home seeker would keep their other housing. Like we always tell them, do not end your lease, because we don't know if this is going to work out at the end of 2 weeks, and the same for the home provider. So we also have that rent-free, just because they're both trying it out. We've had a couple circumstances where this hasn't worked out. One interesting one is they got along great during the match meetings. One home provider had a perfume that was pretty pungent. The home seeker had pretty sensitive smells, and it didn't work out because of that, which I have no opinion to tell them, don't live together or do live together, but that was a deal breaker for them. So we respect that decision, because home sharing is really about 2 people choosing each other. We are here to facilitate it and make it safe and make it feel comfortable, but if you don't like that person, then you don't have to live with them, and that's completely okay. So we want it to be an empowering process, because how many of our seniors don't have choice? Oh, my caregiver picks me up every Wednesday at this time to go to the doctor's appointment. I can't make my own schedule, I can't drive, so having that choice, the empowerment to choose who you live with, is really important for us. So after the 2-week trial, we go through a living together contract, which is where we sit down together after the 2-week trial, and we talk all the ins and outs of home sharing. If there is service exchange, how often are you going to mow the lawn? Is it every 2 weeks? In the winter, are we going to snow shovel? Let's talk about the agreement, and let's also talk about how much rent is going to be taken off for that service exchange, which we have a lot of expertise and experience in, so we're pretty good at having those conversations of, we say it's $26 an hour, but each hour is really worth, quite a bit of money that you'd be paying out of pocket. So you're using your house as an asset to pay for things. But if that person is really doing quite a bit of service exchange, the rent might be $300 instead of $700. But each match is so different. I think our highest rent is $850, and that's because she does no service exchange and she has a private basement apartment. Our lowest rent has been $0. And then we also ask for a fee from our home providers, which is on a sliding fee scale. Our board instituted this in 2019. We have home providers who have quite a bit of money, and we have home providers who don't have much money at all. So if you make less than $15,000, the fee is $10. If you make $200,000 or more, we might charge you $500 for our service, and that's just the value of having somebody there. But it it can always be a conversation. So if it is a hardship on somebody, we can say, collect a few months of rent and then pay us, right? So we are willing to work with people. And then we don't let people just go off on their own and survive. We come in and check in every 3 months for the first year, and we are also available via phone call, right? This really bothered me that she didn't put the dishes away. Okay, here's some communication techniques. Let's use I statements. We will come out and help you if you need us, but we really want to empower you to have that good communication between each other. And just some things about Sunshine. So we are geriatric professionals. I'm an MSW. Allison is a licensed counselor, LCC, sorry. And we also have an LCSW on our staff as well. So we all come from different capacities of working with the older adult population, but we all bring that specialty in there too. And then our match length, so we really go for sustainability, which means we want these matches to last a year plus, and that really is in the benefit of a home provider and a home seeker. We realize that home sharing can't last forever. We had our first home provider pass away this year at 94. They were home sharing for 2 years. His family gave her, 6 months to get out. They were so grateful for all that she had done for him, through the last couple years of his life. But also the same happens for a home seeker. Their life might change. They might get a job in Chicago. They might get married, right? So things change, but we do ask for at least a year commitment coming into the program. We also have instituted a new part of the Denver program, which will not be in the Colorado Springs program, as far as I know. But we do financial social work around home sharing. So home sharing is naturally you are hopefully benefiting from this program financially for home providers or home seekers. We've started to do some more coaching around what you can do with that extra $500. Let's talk about your goals. If you want to go to Hawaii because you've never been, let's get you to Hawaii with this extra $500 a month. If you are saving, $300 a month in rent, how can we help you save for your own retirement or save for a house? So we really work with people on that in Denver. Maybe a potential in the Springs one day, who knows. And we also collect a lot of data. I will talk about this a little bit more, that we are doing a project with the VA about collecting all of our home sharing data and trying to present this a little bit better because we've only been running for about 4 years. So we are trying to, so we do a pre-post study. So before someone gets matched, we have them talk about how often are you eating 3 meals a day? How often do you feel connected to your community? Then every time that I come out and visit the first year, we do another post survey. So we are starting to analyze that data, or we have analyzed that data. This is all new. This is kind of an older presentation. Yeah, we just did. And then this is also a best practice model. So I always tell people that sadly, Allison did not come up with this idea all on her own. There are 64 other programs in the U.S. that do this. It's also an international model. Countries like Spain and New Zealand do this with students more and seniors in their populations. So we are really following this best practice model from other programs that have been running for 40-plus years. So hopefully I've kind of touched on the benefits to both a home seeker and a home provider throughout this process, or this presentation kind of naturally. But, right, the affordable housing solution that comes for a home seeker, the ability to age in place for a home provider, the income that kind of is beneficial for both sides. So I'll set to read through those because I don't want to take up too much time. And then our partners and our funders is a huge thing that we have seen grown in the last 2 years that at least I've been with Sunshine. Like I said, we have a partnership with the VA that they are trying to analyze all of the home share programs. So all the other 64 other programs, they are looking at how many matches does an average home share program make. What is the average age of a home provider, right? Just to give us that national kind of group model to hopefully get funding from other bigger organizations like HUD, maybe even, right? Or talking about getting funding from Medicaid, because if we are saving people from going into an assisted living or a nursing home, we are saving a lot of money for our taxpayers. We also get a grant from the Colorado Health Foundation. We also just got a grant from the Lutheran Hospital in Denver. We get a lot of our funding in Denver from the city of Denver. That's how my position is funded. We also get some funding from the United Way and the Next 50 initiative, which funds senior programming. So we have really seen a huge growth in the interest of home sharing because we keep seeing the needs go up, right? The need to help people age in place is not going down. The need to help people find some cheap housing is also not going down. So we've seen our funding also increase because of that. And then just some of our stories. I already shared about Jordan and Joyce. Last year we gave $50 gift cards to all of our matches and said, go out to dinner, go do something fun together, because we want to encourage that hang out, have fun. Like even if you do have separate lives, go out to dinner at least once, like once a month. Do something together that's mindful time together. I'll also share, so most of our matches are intergenerational just because even if you're 90 and you're living with somebody who's 65, that's an intergenerational match, right? They are from different time periods. So yeah, just some of our stories. I'll talk about Natalie. She lived in Breckenridge, and she wanted to go back to school to get her master's in nursing, and she couldn't find any place that was affordable in Denver. And she wanted to go to the Anschutz campus. So she came to us saying, I can't find anything, but I also have this golden retriever who's 13 years old, and I know it's going to be really hard to find a match. Lisa came into our program. She's 55. She's an empty nester. She just had her kids go off to college, and she also just lost her dog a few years ago. So she still had her dog beds in her house. So she was excited. They've been living together for about 6 months. I'm also about to go and do my visit again, but I sent them an email saying, hey, I'm going to come out, but have there been any challenges? Tell me about your positive experiences. And they're like, it's going great. Come out, but there's not much to talk about. So sometimes I do go out there and we do just have Costco treats and drink coffee. And other times I am going out and we're really doing some mediation or changing the agreement because needs have increased or we need more support. So we're really there to help support them throughout their home sharing journey. And that's it. Are there questions or comments? Yes.
A question that's very familiar to this group.
Yes. Okay.
Are you able to service Park County?
No. I'm sorry. We're just we're small and we're just starting. So even we've only been running in Denver for 4 years.
4 years.
And this program doesn't even have a person hired to run it yet because we're doing the interviews today. So this is very we're just starting to kick it off.
Yeah, we have a lot of seniors in Park County, and this living sharing would be a very valuable asset.
Yeah, and that's once again, I am like boots on the ground. That's an Allison question.
Struggle, we're small.
Yeah.
Right, so we're a small. Oh, I don't need it. Yeah. So it's a constant. We get calls all the time in Denver, right? Can you come out to Weld County? Can you come out? And because and that's the reason that we're starting in Pikes Peak is because Melissa said there is a need here and we need to get this off the ground. And we were getting calls all the time from Colorado Springs. And so, for us, it's staffing issues, it's funding issues.
Start the home share program in Park County.
Oh, hey, I turned the mic back on. I
Can't keep her quiet.
We have a lot of homes that people don't live in year-round. We have actually quite a few, and that would actually be a great market to solicit some type of program like that.
And again, we're just going to be testing the waters, right? This is the start to create the footprint. We started the footprint in Denver. We started in a couple of counties. And so I think this is going to let us just start to get the model off the ground, build the footprint, and then we'll see where it goes.
I'm going to tell my husband today, honey, if you die, God forbid, I'm going to share our home.
I will tell you it works, right?
Yeah.
It works when you do it safe, and you do it slow, and you do it thoughtful, and you really are working on that compatibility piece. It's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
I think it's fantastic.
I think it's
What a great
fantastic.
idea. What a great idea.
Yeah, it's great to have something that is coordinated like this to help encourage the process.
Well,
That's
and
good.
it's funny because when we first started, there's a whole lot of things that come with being a new startup nonprofit, right? And so, too new, too small, come back when you have more data, how is it safe, right? You get a room full of lawyers and police officers, and the first thing they always ask is, how is it safe? And as we've been growing, what we have realized is people who need to home share, right? If you need the money, if you are socially isolated, if you cannot afford the supportive services that you need, or your kids don't live nearby, you are going to figure out how to home share, right? So when she was talking about Dwight and Jackie, right? Dwight was 91 years old when we met him, and his granddaughter called me from Chicago saying, my grandpa put a sign up at King Soopers, right? And she's like, I don't want him finding someone at King Soopers. And so what we have realized, and part of this goes with changing the language that we use to our funders, is that we are taking something that people are already doing and we are making it safe, right? We are helping them make it safe, because if you need money and you have a home and you need to home share, you are going to go online, you are going to go to Craigslist, you are going to post a sign at King Soopers, and we are like, we don't want people doing that. Right?
Yeah.
We want them to use our model to make it safe so that we can support the process. And when we kind of flipped that language in our grants, we also started to get funded, right? Because we never have to convince anybody to share their home, right? When the daughter calls and says, this would be so great for my mom, we're like, if your mom is not interested, there is nothing that we can do to convince her that this is the right solution for her, right? But if your mom is really excited about sharing her home and her life and helping someone have an affordable place to live, then we're there, right? So it's just kind of changing the language. Yeah, sure.
I have one quick question. I don't know if there's been a lot of news lately about, communities, particularly, housing communities, and apartment complexes or condominiums and things like that, where there is restrictions on, not being able to rent out your place on, the short-term things like that. And I know that that's been an issue for people, they have an empty house and they want to go do that, but the restrictions on their covenants or things like that have caused problems. Have you guys had any issues with that at all?
No, I mean, all of our homeowners, we have one new homeowner who travels all the time, but they are the primary, it is their primary residence. They are there one of the things about our program is it is about the relationship, first and foremost. And we've had some hard lessons learned where the home seeker loves the location, the space is great, the rent price is right.
But the roommate's a problem.
And the person is not right, and we are getting a call 3 weeks into the match going, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, and it's not going to work. And so we have started to really say to people, it doesn't matter how great everything else is, right? It doesn't matter if the home is perfect, the location, and the rent. If the people are not right, there's nothing about it that's going to be
Yeah,
right.
I just was curious because I know that is an increasing problem for people, and that there are neighborhoods or communities that are saying, sorry, you can't have a part-time renter in a single, family, place. And so I just was curious if that was something that had come up. So
Yeah, that's something that happened once with a match meeting that I did. She lived in a 55-plus apartment. And she was meeting with someone who was 38, and they hit it off. And then we don't try to not inform the apartment what we're doing, right? We try to get them involved. It's no point in trying to hide it because that just seems kind of sketchy anyway. So I went to the leasing, and so the home provider thought because she could put her as a caregiver that it would work because she was going to help her hang up pictures. It wasn't a ton of care, but she, was like, oh, my caregiver is going to be living with me, and they kind of poo-pooed it, and that's why the match didn't work out. So that's the one circumstance where we really learned that they mean 55, but some other ones might be flexible. So so now we know for her apartment building, but we really haven't worked with a ton of HOAs. But this isn't really a short-term rental either. I think that you're thinking of the Airbnb idea where they come for a week and they stay, or they come over Christmas for a couple days.
Yeah, but there's a lot of neighborhoods who are expanding that because they don't want anybody who's a non-owner to be in the home. So I was just curious if that
Not yet, and hopefully not.
I hope not.
Hopefully not.
And we certainly, require, when we talk to the homeowner, We've also had people that are renting their apartment, and we tell them, you have to have permission from your landlord if you are going, because we don't want, and if they have a reverse mortgage, or we are asking if they're current on their utilities, because we also don't want anybody moving into a rental situation and then come to find out that the house is underwater, or that they, right? And so we are certainly also making sure that the home is financially, and almost all of our homeowners or providers do this because they do need some income or extra income. But, if their house was really upside down, we would say we can't put someone at risk of becoming homeless because their financial situation is upside down.
I have a question. What do you put in the contract related to if the homeowner goes into assisted living or passes away, so that this relationship with the family, how do you work that out?
So it's a 30-day for both sides, so a 30-day notice on both sides. So say that person does, we hope that they have the relationship once again that I'm really thinking about moving to an assisted living or to an apartment because this house is just too much. We hope that they're having that conversation, and maybe it's just with us and we can go out and do the mediation, but if somebody does pass away or something happens pretty suddenly, it is 30 days.
And with our older home providers, like the ones that are in their late 80s and 90s, we are bringing, hopefully, the families are involved in this process. And so we are having those conversations before someone moves in, saying, out of respect to this person who is moving in, we really want to ask that you give at least 30 days notice. And like Michaela said, the one where he passed away, the family knew they weren't going to do anything with the house for months, and they let her stay there until she figured out her next plan.
What, do you have any kind of help for the seekers that, the 2-week match works, they move in and whatever weeks, months, it doesn't work, and now all of a sudden, they're in Denver or they're in the Springs with nowhere to live and they can't afford anywhere. Do you help them find somewhere?
Yeah, and the hardest part about that is there isn't really a place to go. Right. So we have funds for like moving out and things like that, but we actually are housed in an old convent building that's kind of empty, so we've kind of toyed around the idea of having beds in there and letting people stay, but for right now, one day in the future, one day. We just have to ask the Catholics for permission. So we do, like we are there, like once on a Thursday night, I got a text at 8 o'clock from my boss, Allison, saying, wear your moving shoes, we're moving somebody out tomorrow. And this is like my first couple, probably like months on the job. But we went there, we moved her out, we paid for the moving truck, right, so we're there to support, but we don't have a place necessarily for them to go. She could stay with family in that circumstance. But we say after, you have to have a plan B and C. So if someone is entering into a 2-week trial match, I say have a plan B and C. And plan B can be a couch for a couple weeks until you find your next spot. Or plan C can even be a shelter. But we need to have a plan B and a C. And sadly, we just don't have the resources to offer one of those plans. But we can help start the conversation. Oh, yeah. We have to. Yeah, we have to talk about it.
Also the reason that the trial match is so important. Like when people say to us, oh, I don't want to do a trial match, or, oh, I just want to do a 4-day trial match. We are like, no, like anybody can behave for 72 hours, right? We really are adamant that 2-week trial match is super important because that's really where you're going to see how does this feel like it's going to work.
Does it happen often that they get through the 2-week trial, they move in, and then it falls apart? Is that common? Or?
Rarely. I would say because they have met, 2 or 3 times before that, and their family has been involved. So usually they have a pretty good idea, but sometimes, yeah. Like the perfume story. They didn't, I guess, when they were coexisting, it's too pungent for me, and I'm not going to get rid of it. Okay, so this is an end.
And we've also had trial matches where, the needs of the homeowner were kind of more than we realized.
I could
And the
see that
person
would
went
be a
in
problem.
to do the trial match and was going, wow, you know, there's a lot more transportation and meals, and this is more than I want to take on. And so, you know, the trial match, and, you know, we're doing one right now, which we're kind of like, where the person is in a shelter, and the shelter won't let her do a 2-week trial match, so they are doing 4 3-day trials. And so we are like, you need to make sure in those 3 days you are spending a lot of time together, you are, and the service exchange is very minimum, so it's I don't think it's that big of a deal, but that trial match is really, really important.
Well, last comment I'd like to just add, I understand the complexities with trying to explain when you're looking for funding and how this would work. And you know, I owned a home care business for many years. Again, as an agency trying to match people up, oftentimes, again, you get in that weird situations like that. But many, many years ago, none of you know this, I was a nanny. And I went through it, and I went through a matching program. And so, and again, it's the very similar thing, so that way the individual is protected, but also the family is protected, so that you're getting the right match in that. So when, I'm the marketing girl, so when those situations come up, finding other things to explain, this is not a new concept. This has been done for a long time. This situation's done it. This situation's done it. And I think that is much more helpful, because at first I was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
But it makes sense, because you really are, they are doing it anyway. And as a home care owner, we had families all the time where the daughters would call us and say, my mom just put a sign up at King Soopers.
Right.
And trying to find a way to provide a safe situation. Congratulations, you guys, it's great.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, it takes a lot to get this off the ground, right? Like, this is going to be an endeavor to it's taken us 3.5, 4 years in Denver to finally have doctor's offices calling and making referrals, and care managers and social workers. And so what I would say is that once we really get this position hired, please, like, we need your help, right? Like, we need you, we will come and speak to church groups and to organizations that you are part of, and social workers that you know. And one of the things that we're going to start with is a focus group. And so how do we bring around people around the table? Because it's going to look different in the Springs than it does in Denver. It's a different city. And so, that focus group. And so what, my ask would be, we need your help. Like, we can't do this.
Just call me.
Yeah. We can't do it. We can't do
Lucy
it.
and I will take care of you. We've got you covered.
Yeah. And some of the ins and outs are that it's a partnership with the AAA, and the person's going to have an office here. So they're going to be sort of weaving between training with us up in Denver and me coming down to help them learn how to do intakes when we start doing all the intake. And home sharing language is different. It's different than home care language. It's different than skilled care language. It's different than your typical social work. So probably me coming down, and when there are resource fairs, just kind of being here and getting the person oriented to the home sharing language. And so, yes, we are going to need your help, and Melissa, to pull this off and make it work. And I will tell you, we tripped over our feet, right? Like, every single client that came through our door, first off, we're like,
newsflash, you're a guinea pig, right? Like and we did our first intakes, and one of our first homeowners said to me, "You didn't ask me if I had Wi-Fi." And I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't even think about it." I will tell you, we have learned that Wi-Fi is a deal breaker. Some people will not move into a house without Wi-Fi. And right, we've had another one where she said, "You didn't ask me about my education and my professional background, and I want to live with someone who has, I have a master's degree in library science." She ended up being matched with another librarian, and I got back the living together contract, and it was red pen. They're like, "Oh, the only time I've gotten back a red pen document," but that was important, and so they have been part of our learning, and I think it will be the same thing, because it's going to look, we know the model, we know how it works, we've got it down, but it's going to need tweaked to meet the needs of this community. We're looking at, there's a potential of also replicating in Boulder. I guarantee Boulder looks very different than Colorado Springs, right? And Denver somewhere in the middle. And so it's going to take all of us for this to work. It's going to be a team effort. It's Melissa. Melissa called one day and said, "We need this. What do you think?" And here we are.
Because of Melissa, too, that we added a category in the next book called Home Share Programs with One Listing. So.
All right. That's great. Okay, I think we all very, very much appreciate it and are benefited from those presentations. So the next thing here would be Wendy, our membership chair.
Yes, so this is just information for right now. We have some action items here in just a second. A couple of different things. First of all, the end of the year is a really big time for membership. There's a lot of changeover, and then people who are also rolling off, and the new people coming on as well. And so, first of all, I just wanted to, I'm going to pass this around, but this is an action item. So for those of you who are not aware of who the lovely lady is in the back of the room in the yellow sweater, yes, this is actually her application. So for those of you who know her, you may not want it, but for those who don't, this is a little bit more about her background. So and this is something that Melissa had, I just thought that was a great idea in the future, so that for those of us who have had the opportunity to get to meet that person, we'll have that available for those who haven't. So that's a great new thing we're going to try for next year. And then the big thing I think right now as far as information is that for those of you who don't know, this will be my 13th year actually, being involved with the RAC. And as a reminder, we do a 3-year term, and then we have the option to renew that 3-year term to a total of 6, and then after 1 full year off, you could actually come back on. Well, the reason I came back on was because we really didn't put a lot of thought into that transition of what a membership chair does. And it became a problem, and so I was begged to come back because we hadn't done a very good job of that. I'm not coming back. And also in conversations with Melissa and also with Jody as well, wanting to make sure that we do a better job of transitioning. We have, Lucy's been great, and Joyce has been wonderful and helpful on our membership committee when we need the interviews and things like that. But we really do need to prepare to train somebody to take over that position when after I roll off. And so after some conversations, I just wanted to, as information only, that Marilyn Bradish has agreed to actually shadow me this next year, because I do have 1 more year left, to actually start preparing to take that role over. And that way we'll have some continuity for the future. So thank you to Marilyn for that. And then the other thing, and I don't know if this is the right time, but I'm going to do it now anyway. One of the things, that's right. One of the hard things is when those moments arise when you realize, oh, wait a minute, they're leaving. And she left. Dixie left. I forgot. That's right. Should have done that at the beginning. So I actually, thanks to the staff and the team for helping prepare this, we actually have some certificates of appreciation for those who will be rolling off. So Dixie Herring, this is her last meeting officially, although I think we're going to pay her for some more stuff coming up. And then, and I goofed last month, so some of you remember I didn't realize that Phyllis meant she wasn't going to be here this month. So we also have Phyllis Huggins, and I don't think there's anyone who can question her dedication to the her people, as she always calls them, out on the eastern side of the county. It's just phenomenal, and I think we can all agree that Envita has had the increase of the routes out there to them specifically because of Phyllis harassing them until they got it done. And sometimes that's what it takes, isn't it? So anyway, so this is also for Phyllis. And then also due to some really important cool stuff on her own, Cynthia is actually going to be rolling off this year too. So you can actually come up. So Cynthia, come here. Yay! No, yeah. So I'm not going to sign. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, slide down. Well, we need to do a picture before everybody.
Oh, my
leaves.
gosh.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
So when life gets less crazy,
Yeah, less crazy.
guess what? We can bring you back. And I think I'm done for the moment. There you go.
Okay, thank you very much. Wendy's done a great job on the membership, and I think it's really great to have you're going to shadow her for a year. I think that's a great thing that we do, both for the membership, for the TRS, and for this the SRS subcommittee that we've established as well. It really helps to have that continuity as you go through it. Okay, so now next on the AAA Director's Report.
All right, so just a couple of quick updates here for you. I want to start first. We talked a little bit about the carryover process. We still have not received, we still have not received the carryover options letter from the state, but we do know that it is in process. We expect that it'll probably be here by the end of the year. Excuse me. And so in discussion with the PPACG Board of Directors as well as the Executive Committee with the RAC, we on the staff side have flip-flopped some of the process in order to expedite the overall process in order to get the funds out to the community sooner. So as of earlier this week, all of our current providers, of course carryover funding is only for current providers, the current providers have received their worksheets, budgets, and estimated carryover amounts for the individual areas. So they're on a deadline now through the end of next week to complete those documents. The staff and I will review those the following week. And then we'll have a date soon to convene the TRS. We'll be setting that sooner rather than later. All of this is to expedite the process so that when we do receive the options letter with the confirmed amount, we will be able to adjust accordingly and move forward and get those funds out into the community. As you know, the last 2 years there were holdups at the state level. Those options letters did not arrive until very late in the season, April last year, in fact. And that means that our providers have 3 months to spend the funds, and what aren't spent go back to the federal government. So these are the federal apportionment of the carryover funds. So we've done this in order to expedite the process. The Board of Directors, we will also be asking them to provide an umbrella vote to allow the TRS to move forward along with the RAC, because the PPACG board will actually meet twice before the RAC meets again at the end of January. We will be asking them next week to go ahead and give us a preemptive vote, which will allow us to move forward, distribute those funds when we get the letter, and then also that will be contingent on the RAC ratification at the end of January. So all of this is to expedite, compress the process. There's so much that we can do now on the staff side and with the TRS members to make sure that these funds are allocated as quickly as possible when we get the official notice. Now, these numbers that they're working on are estimated by our finance director. So the information that was sent out this week was highlighted that once we receive the actual letter from the state with the actual final number, it will their awards will be adjusted proportionally so that we don't have to go back and revisit all of the numbers. We will just simply adjust them proportionally. So again, looking at ways to expedite the process, get those monies into the hands of our providers that much sooner. So thank you very much for the executive committee and Dave and to our PPACG board members who are adamant about making sure that you all are able to continue to be part of the process, engaged in the process. They're very excited about how engaged you are as a regional advisory council, so thank you very much for every one of you. Because you were so engaged, that is why they're willing to flip-flop the process for us so we can keep you engaged and work sooner through the process. So very good. We will keep you all posted, and as I understand it, I'll let Dave go into the TRS. I just want to remind folks that your sign-ins for RAC members and for members of the public that visit with us, your sign-ins are so important because that is how we provide a portion of our match as part of our funding internally with the AAA services here with the 5 departments. So your sign-ins are crucial. I also want to remind you that it's not just your time here in the building. If you spend an hour at home reviewing the minutes, add that hour when you come in and sign in. If you do any preparation in advance of the meeting, if you're meeting as a subcommittee, we will make sure that you have sign-in sheets for your subcommittee. If you're on the phone talking to another member and you're planning something, please make sure that you're recording that. All of that is extremely valuable to us on the AAA side as part of our match. The interesting thing, if you don't know, if we have our volunteer hours, the more volunteer hours we have, the less actual dollars we have to add to the match. And that falls in line with all of the requirements from all of our providers, but sometimes we miss that because it's just a meeting. It was just a phone call. It was just an email. But all of that does add up. So the more dollars we can put back out to the community, we want to make sure that you're aware of that. So thank you very much. Also want to just really quickly do our own recognition. This is Dave's last meeting as chair, and as you have 1 year left as a member, so he will join us in January as a member out there.
Just a member.
Someone else will be in this too.
That's right, somebody else.
Okay. So we've got some goodies here. So we really want to thank Dave for keeping it fresh every time, and so he has a fresh fruit basket to enjoy. Okay. And some nuts because, we're just a little crazy.
We are a little bit crazy.
I also, again, Melissa gets a lot of kudos for this because I tend to get deep in the details, and Melissa and Lisa are keeping me on track with, hey, what are we going to do that's a little fun? So that's good. Also, a certificate for Dave, and just a wonderful thank you. So
all right.
let's grab a picture and move along here. So,
Perfect. Over there?
well, I'll tell you what, why don't you come over here and then we can get it there.
You can always crop out the food. That's right.
Don't carve out my pin
Yeah.
Okay, very nice.
He's not
Take the picture at least. I know this
And of course, to those of you who know, just coming on as director, I had the privilege of being on the RAC for 2 years prior. So it's been a privilege to serve with all of you as RAC member, but then also now side by side with Dave as chair. So thank you very much for your time and your commitment to the board. We sure appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate the recognition on that. It's a labor of love. I think you've heard me talk before. I've got 3 Ps that I kind of stand with: passion, purpose, and persistence. So if you link those 3 things together, whatever you do, whatever your volunteer work, your business work, whatever it is, that's exactly what needs to happen. And especially from the local community perspective, your neighborhood, your volunteer work, your church, your community activities, organizations, that's what's missing. And in the hypersensitive environment that we live in, with all the talks and social media and the rest of it, really focus on that passion, purpose, and persistence. It really does make a sense to get us back into a civil society again. So enough on that. Okay, the other thing, a couple things here on the information items. And so as part of the RAC chair, one of the responsibilities is to be able to appoint the subcommittee chairs. It's not a vote thing. It's a discussion. Wendy has spent quite a bit of time on this, and she's had a discussion on the technical resource or TRS subcommittee, whatever it's called. And we need a new chair on that since Dixie is leaving at the end of this month. So Wendy has had previous conversation with Chris, and I've had a conversation with Chris, thankfully, and we welcome you as the new chairman of the TRS. I think it's important, too, as far as like Wendy had pointed out before, the transition, the shadowing is really an important piece. So Dixie, even though she's rolling off of RAC, she will be here for the January meeting. I'll be there. I can be there as not as a RAC chair, but just as a member or as ex officio. Yeah. And I think it's really important to have that transition and that ability to make sure that we have a nice, smooth carryover into the new process and procedure. So you're officially appointed now as the chair of the TRS.
And your committee will keep you in line, I'm sure.
That's right. Okay, so that's all I think I wanted to point out at this point. Let's move on to the action items, since we do have the food that's sitting up here, and it's almost spoiling, so we have to keep moving. So one of the action items, we had talked previously about moving the RAC meeting date from the last Thursday of the month to the 4th Thursday of the month. We've had previous discussion on that, and I don't think we need any more at this point. Is there a motion to make that official? Second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Chris and then Joyce.
Chris and Joyce. Okay, that's great. Okay, so then we have the slate of officers to replace us that are moving on to something else. So Wendy.
The interesting things about membership is being intimately involved with the dates, when people are coming on, when they're going off, and who's available and who's not available. And so Marilyn, we're going to talk. But over the years, I've had lots of conversations with people about what it takes to be a chairperson, and as well as I've actually, not to, share myself anything, but I've often had people say, well, you would be a great chair. I'm like, no, because I want our seniors to represent on this committee, because that's who we serve. And so finding those opportunities, I think, is especially important, because I don't know that there's always those opportunities that those who we serve have opportunity to be represented by those who would be their peers. And so not that Jen or I or Jody back in the day, when he was still just one of us, even though we are below 60 years old, I have always felt very strongly that it needs to be reflective of those who we actually serve. And so I am proposing, as a membership chair of the Regional Advisory Council, that for the year 2020, our chairperson be Dixie Wodell. Our first vice chair will continue to be Bea Babbitt. Thank you again for continued service. And our second vice chair, Joyce Whittle. And
right.
that is an action item, and so I am proposing that.
As a motion.
As a motion.
As a slate of officers.
So
Dixie Waddell.
Dixie
Beatrice.
Waddell,
And Joyce
Bea
Whittle.
Babbitt, and Joyce Whittle.
That's, you making the motion.
making the motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Chris
Thank
is
you.
seconding that.
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye. There we go.
Opposed?
Any opposed?
Congratulations to the
Any
new,
opposed?
to the new officers.
Yay!
To the new officers
Oh,
for
wait,
2020.
you guys can't oppose!
I think the important thing, too, is as we talked about this transition and shadowing, questions back and forth between me and also between Joe Ruth.
I want your phone number.
Exactly. You'll have all
That's
the
why that
emails.
paper went around.
That's really an important piece. Okay,
yes.
so we've got that done. So the other thing is the membership of
Yes.
Marilyn Massey, and that's another
So we
piece.
have a proposal of a new member-ish.
Returning member.
A returning member. And so just as a point of information, so when someone does leave, again, it must be a full year, before they might possibly be able to come back on. Joe Ruth and I have lots to share about that. Last year, Marilyn Massey left to serve a mission for her church. And so she was in Boston for this last year. She has returned, and the first question she asked was, "Can I come back?" And so I am happy to present again the potential RAC member of Marilyn Massey. You've got her information there. And so I'm making a motion that we appoint Marilyn Massey as a new council member.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Cynthia. All those,
All in fa-
any
yeah.
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Wonderful. Congratulations.
Yay!
You're back. You're back. We love it. Okay.
Yes.
So the next thing on the item is discussion items. Are there anything else before we, yes, did you have a question? Go on the mic, please. Middle.
So the 4th,
You missed
is
it.
that it?
You missed it, the middle one, I think
Well,
it
what do
is.
you mean?
Or the one with the little face.
This one, but it's not turning on.
It's not turning on.
Okay,
All
that's
right,
okay,
so
great.
the 4th Thursday in November is Thanksgiving, and in December it's Christmas Eve, so just,
For 2020?
yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to adjust and
Yeah,
adapt.
every year we adjust at the holidays, so yeah, it still has to be adjusted just like we've done in the past. Thank you.
Okay,
Quick
Chris?
statement. We did get a grant from the Colorado Community Health Alliance, a small grant of about $5,000, but one thing that brought up, there's a program called CARE, which is very active in Colorado Springs, and it's through their fire department. And one of the things that they actively do, my understanding is they've cut down the amount of actual transport calls because they send an actual social worker and/or critical care person with each call, or they're processed through to them, and it's a great idea. So whoever can give me more information about that, I would love to know that, because we have a big problem with that in our area. Thank you.
So we will be having the CARES program present here to the RAC.
Okay.
Joe, the other J, Joe, wanted them to come in May, and I don't quite know why that is. I may have them come sooner than that.
Okay.
So they will be coming here, and I can also just give you their information to talk to them.
That'd be great. We'd love to know more information about that, so thank you.
just along that same line, it might be worthwhile to have somebody from the fire department. CARES is separate from the fire department, related to it?
CARES is.
It is part of the fire
It
department?
is part of the fire department.
Okay, great,
It would be
okay.
an actual fire.
That's great, okay. Any other discussion items? Then we're on to the calendar of events in the next meeting. I'd say a couple calendar Christmassy things. This Saturday at 2 o'clock and at 7 o'clock, there is a America the Beautiful Barbershop Chorus has their annual Christmas concert at Sunrise United Methodist Church in the north part of the Springs. America the Beautiful Chorus. So they're going to have, that's their main program. It'll be 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Tickets are available for that at the door. The other two choruses that are supporting and participating in that concert are the Soli Deo Gloria Choir that I'm in. So we're going to be singing 5 numbers at that 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock. And there's also a female barbershop related, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the organization, but again, it's about 30 or 40. And so you have a fairly large program for those 3 choruses or choirs, and we'll have a mass chorus at the end at each one of those singing. So you have about 150 voices. It's a pretty impressive group of folks. Not me, but the others. Okay. So again, that's 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock on Saturday the 7th, December 7th, at Sunrise United Methodist Church. Okay.
And the cost?
I think the tickets are $15. That's why they're having 2 different programs that seats about 700 or 800 people in the auditorium. Wow. And the other Christmas note is on the 14th, a week from Saturday. That's when our group, the Soli Deo Gloria Community Chorus, has its program, and that's at First United Methodist Church downtown. And we'll have soloists, we have paid musicians, and it's a 100-voice non-audition choir, and it really is pretty spectacular. Some great voices there. I'm just one in the back. I just get to blend in. So it's really an important thing. So the 7th and the 14th, 2 opportunities for Christmassy things. Are there any other things that we need to mention at this point? The next meeting is the January 23rd. Any other last-minute comments or questions? If not, can we have a motion to adjourn? Approved. We're adjourned. Let's enjoy the Christmas potluck. Cool. This is great. Appreciate it.
We're going to put that in the books.
Yeah.
We've done 11:47.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to keep going on it, but it really is important, I think. And it's great that we're at 10 o'clock. I think that's a huge positive change. That is just huge. Yeah. I like your sweater.
Oh, thanks.
You're jingling. Something's jingling.
I know, I have to take it off. I have to take it off when I'm in a room.
Oh, absolutely. Good. Thank you.
How's it going?
Well, let's see. What I'll do is,
Or take a picture of the glasses or the frame of
Yeah.
whiteness. Should I take them with you wearing them? No? Okay. They're very similar.
they are.
Just a little different.
Just come on.
Yeah. It's an Italian stage that often.
Yeah.
It's in this little designer section there, but I don't remember what the designer's name is.
Super cute.
Well, then they're very like
They are. They're.
I have the lenses that they say are like the scratch-proof best lenses you can get, and they are always a mess. So
Yes.
it's like every day
That's same
having
with
to
these.
do the cleaning, and then they still look like
They still look like
I smeared them through the butter.
Can you fix that?
Yeah.
Because I just live with dirty glasses.
Oh my gosh, and people will like, can you even see out of those mirrors? Then you get like this little red shadowing on there that I know.
Mine are always, it's like, around the nose pieces. And
Yes.
I can't get in there to get it like, cleaned up.
See, and they told me like don't use the and the cloth that to do them with down dish and like a diaper, something soft like that, and they really do come through. But then it's
I spray mine down with Windex, so maybe I should switch to Dawn.
so Dawn, that's what the technician told me.
Which I guess makes sense. It's going to get the oils and the oil in.
And then like a baby bib or a diaper or something, not paper towels, Kleenex.
Like, and Kleenex you can't use because then you get
furry.
whenever,
Yeah. Yeah, right, so, yeah, see how it looks there? I cleaned it and it just like, it's this red. And I went back twice and said, are you sure these are the lenses that were the extra? Right. Yes, but this is how you have to take care of it.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, right.
I need less to take care of it. How's it going? Microwave?
Yes.
I have no idea what's wrong with it. It's still.
Justin, come here, let's see, buddy.
I think he has an appetite.
Oh, he is. He does. No, let's go get some food. Let's get some food. Let's get some food.
So I'm like, this is really fun, but hi, buddy. But I know, but now the whole place is contaminated. Oh, that's true.
Howdy.
Wow.
Do you remember Jonathan? Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, put darker hair on him, and that's my old.
Where's his shoes?
He hates them. They're in the car.
Every time I see him, he has no shoes.
Yeah. No, he won't keep his shoes.
I love it. It's good for his feet.
Let's go get some food. Let's get some food.
Yeah, I gotta get myself in on a free meal whenever I can. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd love to, but I might make a plate and take it.
You should at least do. You have time to.
Yeah, I gotta call him.
Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah. That's why I was like, we can drink at my house.
Justin, let's get
Well, and I'm driving to California on the 16th. And so that's going on. Like, I don't even know how I have time to get everything done that I think I need to get done before I go.
Right.
And, like, all I want to do is just go drink somewhere instead. You know, like, I can't do that. And last night I tried my hardest to just do it by myself.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. I mean, I had way too much to do. I didn't get home until like 9:30. I'm like, well, I can't start drinking now. And
Yeah, I'll come back.
By the way, we really loved when we went to that presentation. That was fantastic. Well, thank you. Your daughter said a lot of wonderful things in her presentation, so that's very nice. But that was, I had no idea that the organization had that much financial support. I was really impressed.
Glad to hear that, yeah. It's been a really good experience. I love working with you.
I know, I had to go get the dish.
It's difficult though in the community because they replace their agencies. So it's been tough to get community around and behind them to see what they're doing. You know, yeah. So,
Well, I was really impressed.
Well,
Sorry to see you leave.
Together our directory in our area for our local performers, and I told them
too much. I have 3 grants sitting on my desk for the copper. I'm on their art cultural planning committee for 5 years.
Okay.
And then I got the census.
Pretty extensive grants, too, on it.
Yeah,
Large
it's
dollars.
their, right.
There's lots of detail in the program.
Right, they're trying to,
And you have to make sure it matches. Does it meet all the criteria? Does it meet
they're trying to hire a coordinator, so that's why
I think once this is established, it'll be a good way for you guys to see it, because the yellow book is
the
not,
other
it is
So,
not
you know, it's like,
optimally effective.
how did I get myself?
Because there's just not any providers
That's on
that
the
service
art side, right?
That's
And that's the
right.
problem.
It's the cultural.
We know what needed in Park County, but there's nobody
Oh,
to find. So
yeah.
what's going to look like? And that's why it's a reservation about putting, because I don't want people in Park County like,
Great thinking. Okay, so what do I do?
Right. Yes. So we are bringing those people. That's the whole point of what we've been doing. So we're very excited about it. I do want to let you know, and I
okay, that's great. That's great. And
But I think the interesting part about the cultural plan is that, you know, and we talked about it, that there's so much going on. Getting monies for like the empty stocking funds, and they're collecting for people in need. But there's nobody looking at the cultural aspect of Colorado Springs. And so the conservatory, the Philharmonic, the art center, the children's
it's been a
museum,
great relationship. They do a
nobody thinks
senior
of this,
fair
but
out
that's
there. I've been
important
able
to us.
find other providers. You know, like, it's
And
been
nobody's
great. So
offering money
that's what we're all about. You just need to know what
upkeep.
these organizations to sustain it, and that's why we need this
without engaging someone else in an expenditure that might be
It's copper. It's copper.
and then we've absorbed the institution and the formatting and really marketing it. And then we can take it from there. But we're really fortunate at the timing.
But they need this other kind of venue.
Well, you let me know how it
Concert.
I will about it.
Okay, so all these people are living in Brookdale and all the various places. Okay, so we really have a social director, a program director. Does he or she really try to drag people out or make them aware of all these cultural things? Exactly.
Take them to the Philharmonic. Take them
Where they identify the need and somehow the transportation.
Exactly. All
Says,
they
hey, I'm
need to
going
do
to
is
take you over.
transportation, but that piece is missing.
So one of the things we talked about in the executive meeting this morning was, okay, so what I want to do, I want to work with Joe Root as ex officio.
Yes.
This is kind of looking at the senior facilities and just talking about
You know what?
directors.
I don't know why. I've done the cooking classes over at Hillside Community Center. They closed their senior meal, and I went, geez, so. I'm just appalled that now the seniors have to go to Hancock, and they have to go out of their neighborhood because it just was not cost effective. Joan Clemens says it's not cost effective. Yet I use their kitchen, I paid them to use their kitchen. And that's a beautiful kitchen, and they're not using it to feed the seniors.
Now, the other thing I'm really focused on is
Catch a ride, so.
like we're a well-to-do neighborhood up in that area. And even there, there's a real need for because,
There's another
spouse has some sort of problem. It's a gift, or it's awesome. Kids are not there, kids don't care anymore. How do you help transition this friendship?
Oh, that's a beautiful idea. I can see the college kids.
Why don't you partner with the college
Colleges,
kids? Here's the
right.
format.
Exactly.
We can form a nonprofit. We can do this. That's the purpose. We can solve
The
it.
seniors are quiet. My house is quiet. You know, they can study.
I will see you guys soon. I gotta catch a ride.
Thank you. Hope that conference is resolved. Did you get a word on it? Merry Christmas.
You're absolutely right. The college kids, you know, why are they paying rent? They could do.
Exactly. And to me, that's more of a natural thing.
Exactly.
They're working really hard to get the word out, to get people to come to them. It's like probably a housing office on the college campus and say, okay, how many are really struggling to make that?
Exactly. Yeah. And they can study.
Of course, maybe the kids living all past that project.
Well, I don't know. And the Wi-Fi.
That's pretty good. You gotta want to get up there, huh?
Yeah, we'll get up there.
I know. I just remembered that. Because now all the things that is.
Oh, I know. You have a tough job, Melissa. You just, I mean,